This is the Retro Inc. podcast. Welcome back. Welcome back to Retro Inc., episode number 46, with Andy and Jeremy. How are you, fellas?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. Have you had a good week?
Been a cold one.
Yeah, it's been snowy.
It's been very snowy, yeah. Did you get very much up there in your neck of the woods?
Well, it was a little bit depressing the first day, wasn't it? Because we had a lot of snow in the evening. I woke up to wet. It was just rain everywhere. It wasn't even cold. Well, it was cold, but it wasn't even icy or anything. But then the next night was something a bit different, wasn't it?
It was quite
I got
special.
none. I got no snow at all. No.
I've still got some in my garden now.
No.
Believe it or not. But the first night, it was Friday night when I come home. Sorry, it was the good night. I come home from work and I got in at about 9 o'clock, and my wife and my daughter weren't here. And they were around the park playing in the snow, which is fair enough. So I went and joined them to where I found my cousin and her kids in the snow in the park as well. But then we woke up Saturday and it was kind of all over at that point. But I did have a lovely fire in the snow on Friday night on my own in the garden. That was nice. Yeah.
Why was on your own?
Well, because everyone went to bed. So, you know.
I just thought it was a really good excuse to watch Empire Strikes Back. And
I was doing that just before we started recording. So,
And I think I've mentioned to you, didn't I? I was going to get a little setup done in the snow with some atcontact and stuff, and then I just thought, no, I'm not getting my 40-year-old stickers wet. So I thought better of it. Yeah. So in that time, when we had a little bit of snow, I had a bit of time off work because things weren't so good in my line of work, trying to get out and about and clients cancelling and various things. So managed to get quite a bit of Netflix watching. And I'll go through my little list. And I know you boys have probably seen these movies several times. And then there's one particular one which was new to Netflix very, very recently. And we'll go into that one because Jeremy's seen that one. So this week, I watched Inception. Now, what do you guys think of the film Inception, and when did you last see it? And did you like it?
I've not seen it.
You've not seen it, Andy?
I've seen it, and I think it's a very good film. I think that's all it is, though. I don't get the hype as much as a lot of people say about it. It's visually gorgeous. The acting's great. It just doesn't do much for me. I think it's very clever, but it's just one of those that I've seen it. I'm never really interested in watching it again.
It's a great kind of mindful sci-fi take on a heist, isn't it, at the end of the day? And
yeah.
I think one of the things that the reason why I wanted to watch this again was because of a quote by Christopher Nolan where he said to Michael, he's got his head completely. Michael Caine. Michael Caine asked, how will I know which scenes am I in? Am I in the real scenes or the not real scenes? And Christopher Nolan said, you're in all the scenes that you're in is reality. So if you're in the scene, it's real. Now that might have spoiled something for Jeremy's future watching of Inception, but I don't think it did. So I was watching it with that in mind, and it was quite helpful, quite frankly. So
I've not watched it because it's got Leonardo DiCaprio in it, and he makes me want to punch my telly.
What?
Yeah.
What? Your remote ain't going to go well today, is it? I know
It's not. So I revisited Age of Ultron.
No, sorry. Can we just go back to that? Because Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the greatest, if not the greatest actor of that generation.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Mm-hmm. And Jeremy doesn't like him.
It's typical.
Yeah.
It's typical.
I
think of actors. I think like Tom Hanks, Leonardo DiCaprio. They're the names that fly up there with the greats for me. You don't like Titanic?
No,
And is
I
that what
think
you're basing your like for Leonardo DiCaprio on?
Yeah, that and Romeo and Juliet. I hated both of them.
No, man, no. Because Titanic and Romeo and Juliet I like, but I'll let them slide a little bit because of the subject matter and the demographic that they were aiming for, because that was very much products for teenage to young adult. But watch
Wolf of Wall
films.
Street, Gatsby. Have you seen him in those movies for a start?
No, I haven't seen them
Man.
because I don't like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right, okay, anyway, sorry, you're saying about Voltron.
So, Age of Ultron, I
Age
watched
of Ultron,
again.
sorry.
I hadn't seen it for a while and thought I'd check it out since we're getting nearer the date of Endgame. And it definitely does have those irritating moments in it. I don't know when you last watched Age of Ultron, but there are some quite irritating moments.
I watched them long ago,
but on the
actually.
whole, it's flipping good.
Yeah.
I find with Age of Ultron, it's not as grand as what we'd expect from the Avengers. If you actually look at it, even Captain America Civil War, it was at that kind of that fork in the road for Marvel where they were up in their game and they were coming to this end game, as it were, and they were building up the property and the mixed universe. And Age of Ultron just felt like a misstep to me where it doesn't really matter. There's a couple of story beats that happen in there. You've got Vision and etc. But as a whole, it's a great movie for the Avengers. But if it had been Avengers 1, it would have. I think I would have like received it a lot better on myself.
Sure.
And as it is, Avengers 1 is better, and Civil War is better, and everything that's come after Age of Ultron is better. So it just seems to me that that was around the lull, that when I said to you before about the Marvel films where I started getting out of them, that was where it sort of happened around that. And it didn't do anything for me. I remember seeing that in IMAX and I come out of there not deflated, but a little bit kind of nonplussed, really. I wasn't disappointed in that, oh my, I've just seen a terrible movie, because I hadn't. But I went in expecting this, where are we going with this? And we just got a kind of a standalone movie. You know, and that's
pretty much
that's all I feel with Ultron, is that I just don't need to watch it. Where the others, there's a lot of films there. Like I said, I watched Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 the other day, and contextually and with hindsight, they are so much better now, those movies, because of the way this series has gone. Whereas I have seen Age of Ultron recently, and it didn't do that for me. It just still sat there as Age of Ultron, and that's not a bad thing, but it's just not necessary anymore.
Good point.
Yeah.
Next on the list, which was released this week, is Assassin's Creed. In this adaptation of the critically acclaimed video game franchise, a man on death row is rescued from execution by a mysterious organization starring Michael Fassbender and Jeremy Irons. And I loved it. And I think this is the second time I've seen it. And it was the second time I've seen it. And I absolutely couldn't understand. And my son said the same thing. Why did it get such bad reviews? Why did it not get the tracking from when it was released? They were saying it's not going to take as much money as it should do. I think a lot of people should watch this now. This is on the streaming service, because it is mighty fine, I think. What do you guys think?
I hadn't seen it, not because I don't like Michael Fassbender. I really like him. I've just not got around to watching it yet. I know it's on Netflix now, so I will watch it. Freddie wants to watch it.
It's great.
And again, its reviews of movies are pointless. They're just,
I'm with you there. It's not that I don't want to see this. I have been championing this movie since I heard it was being made, especially with Fassbender attached. The only game I've ever platinumed on my PlayStation is Assassin's Creed 2. I love the series. I think it's one of those generation-defining games. I just never got around to it. There are, again, it's that thing I said to you about before, where I get put off by something, not because of the bad reviews, but because of the hype and everything that goes around it. It kind of makes me go, oh, I'll watch it later. And that then turns into never. Do you see what I mean? It's not that that's what puts me off. It's just like, all right, enough of that. Let me deal with it in my own time. And unfortunately, that takes a long time sometimes. The only things that do worry me about it is I heard it spends far too much time outside of the Animus. and not enough time in the Animus. Back in in the memory section of the story, and that is my problem when I'm playing the game. I don't really care about Desmond's story and what's going on outside of the Animus. You can forget all of that, and I'll happily play the game. You can do all that through context with other things, notes, stories, and etc. etc. And that's the only thing that's really putting me off about it, because I want to see Assassin's Creed. I want to see him running around killing people.
I think
I've never even played the game.
I think what you'll find with this is that where it's trying to go is to create the next film of this franchise, and where it's outside of the Azimuth, it's trying to pull in more characters for him to join up with on future films. And
which one?
Well, it's not going to happen.
I think that's a massive mistake that they make with movies. They make a movie thinking it's going to be a franchise, where in the past they make a movie which was a hit, and then they go, "Oh, we'll make some more movies." They should make a movie, and then if it could, consider a sequel, rather than trying to set up a universe that might not be there.
This does round off really well. It does end really well. It doesn't give you a feeling of, oh, this could be, part 1 of 3. But you can kind of see what they were trying to do. And I think, if you, as long as you're not having too many sort of hopes on it, which I know the Halo fans, would have loved to have had some good Halo films. As you know, Andy.
Movements have happened with that over the last little while with the Halo movie. There's been a few rumblings with it. With Assassin's Creed, I just think it's one of the biggest gaming properties in the world at this current time. I mean, we just had Odyssey, wasn't it? Or we had Origins and then Odyssey. And Odyssey has performed very well, and people are loving it. And they've changed the way the game plays and its mechanics a little bit, and changed it up. But they've taken a step back now in making these games. I think it's EA, isn't it? And they were releasing them annually, and now they're taking years off. They've had a year off, then they had another year off, and apparently they're doing it again before the next installment. And I think they're reshuffling this franchise because they've kind of rebooted it with Origin and Odyssey. And I think they're probably going to be looking at this about what they're going to be doing going forward. We may get another Assassin's Creed movie, but it will not be the Fassbender universe. It will be something else. A soft reboot, a soft reboot. They can just bring it out, because the beautiful thing about a property like Assassin's Creed is the world's your oyster. You can have that one exist there, but they're not even going on about it. They can just reference it. They can just reference that guy, and they can do another person in the Animus with different memories, and that's cool, But I really hope that we do get a franchise out of this, because it deserves it. It's rich. It's got so much that it can cover. I mean, you can cover any period in history, including the Knights Templars, and that makes for great storytelling. There's no two ways about it. It's a good action movie with people getting killed, with Knights Templar and history. I mean, you can even go back to the Spartans, which they have done, and that to me sounds great for a franchise of movies. It's just a shame this one fell, which is not surprising, though, because it is a video game movie.
Well, on that note, we've got Alita Battle Angel being released on the 6th of February. And what I do hope doesn't happen is, again, another kind of Valerian style, Assassin's Creed style event where a film comes
10
out.
to the pound it will, mate.
People don't get it. They haven't read anything of it. It goes past the radar, and then it maybe gets picked up later on, and people go, why did this not do so well? But it's too late. The studio have given up.
I'll tell you one reason. That's because manga doesn't transfer well to live action movie. There has not been one. I mean, I watched Ghost in the Shell again. Visually stunning. It's gorgeous to look at. It's Scarlett Johansson in a skin-coloured suit for most of the film. It's not a problem, but people don't get it. I'm a nerd, and I don't even really like manga. You are someone. There is a certain person and people that like that property and that style of art and that storytelling. It's not for me. I've tried. God knows I've tried. I've sat there. I've watched Akira. I quite enjoyed that as a movie. But that's something even anime fans say. it's a standout. It's something special. I still didn't enjoy it to the point where I'd go out and buy it and watch it again. Ghost in the Shell, again, I've seen some of that. It just wasn't for me. The premise and the story and all of that there is for me because it fits in my wheelhouse. But there's just something about anime and manga that just doesn't hit my buttons. And I can see Alita Battle Angel going that way. This much mooted Akira movie that they're talking about that's been in development for years. I can see that if it eventually does come out, it will go the same way. There is not the demographic for it enough to make it a hit.
It's quite a niche, isn't it?
It is a niche, mate.
I think what we'll see is certainly
niche for
income-wise. Income-wise for this film, I think once this goes to the Far East and Asia, I think we're going to see some pretty hefty.
I disagree, mate. I don't think it'll do it.
Seat sales.
I really
I'm definitely going to cinema. I'm myself and hopefully both my kids. I'm going to take them next weekend to go and see it. I love Ghost in the Shell. I love the original anime. I loved it. I'm a big fan of Death Note and Attack on Titan.
Hipster.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of that stuff. Next one is Star Trek Discovery is back on Netflix with a new series, and it's rather good so far. The third episode was released on Friday, and then an amazing movie. And if you're really into Kingsman and you like a bit of kick-ass, then Polar is definitely for you. The story about an assassin on the verge of retirement who must put the good life on hold when his greedy boss sends a squad of young, ruthless killers to take him out. Starring Mads Mikkelsen, Vanessa Hudgens, Catherine Winnick, and Matt Lucas. Jeremy, you've seen this incredible film. I think this film is absolutely
brilliant,
incredible. Yeah,
absolutely loved it. I love a bit of Mads anyway. He's on my to-do list, so I can't knock anything with him in. Massively violent. It is an 18. Yeah. And it does have that. It definitely has that Kingsman-esque blood kind of feel to it, doesn't it? When people are shot, you really see them get shot. Yeah.
But it's done in a very comic book way because, again, this is based on the comics. This was a Dark Horse publication, and again, you know, we've just mentioned about anime and comic books transferring to cinema, and I think this did an incredible job. I think this is going to make people sort of go into their local comic book shop and maybe seek this out and check it out because it has a John Wick style feel to it. It definitely has a kick-ass style feel to it, and I think some of the editing is so good in this. It's beautifully shot. I think the cinematography in this is pretty good. And Jonas Ackland, the director, I think, you know, he should get some major kudos for doing a tremendous job. There is some incredible characters in this. I mean, who's really stood out for you? I mean,
Matt Lucas. Matt Lucas would talk about playing against time. He was brilliant. What's the matter?
We have some sound problems with your microphone, Jeremy. Yeah, what I think you were getting at is that, you know, I saw Matt Lucas on the cast list, and I was like, okay, let's see what this guy's doing. And he pretty much is playing one of the characters out of Little Britain, isn't he? In an extreme way, and it's rather good. He kind of reminded me a little bit of you know, in Little Britain where there's that lady, isn't she's in the fat suit, and she's in the spa. Do you know that character? And she's and she's always getting her bits and pieces out. He this character kind of reminded me.
Never watched Little Britain, mate. To be honest,
have you not? Well, I think this is a cracking film, and if any of our listeners want to watch something that's pretty bloody, pretty exciting, and has some scenes of high sexual nature, I think you may have come across that scene particularly. Mads Mikkelsen, I'm sure, when he saw his script, thought, sex scene, and I said, I'm in. For sure.
Child.
So, anyway.
Who's the more foolish?
I.O. is another movie that's on Netflix, which is a really good sci-fi. I highly recommend watching Jonathan Helpert's sci-fi fantasy. This is about a young scientist who searches a way to save a dying Earth, and she finds a connection with a man who's racing to catch the last shuttle of the planet. It's beautifully shot. Definitely worth checking that out. Really go and have a little look. As Close is as well. Now, Close is a really interesting movie. This stars Numi Rapace. Now, you might know her from Prometheus, and
yeah, she was good in that.
Really, really good. And this is definitely worth checking out. This is when attackers target the heiress she's protecting. Battle-hardened bodyguard Sam scrambles to save her client and teach her how to fight back. Really worth checking this out. It's a kind of really good action-adventure thriller, and it's pretty exciting. Andy, what are you watching this week?
What have I watched? Well,
what have you been checking out?
On Saturday night, I had plans to sit down and do a DVD commentary that went awry. So I watched Venom.
Which one?
The only Venom.
The only Venom.
No, the original Venom is the Klaus Kinski, Oliver Reed one about Black Mamba.
Yeah, that's totally the one that I watched. Yeah,
yeah,
about
that was
very good.
Sex toy.
That was the one that came to
Susan George as well. Yeah.
No, I watched Venom with what's
Tom
his
Hardy.
name in it? Tom Hardy. Thank you. Right. Now I've got to say I went into this already with reservations because I really wasn't game for it. I've never really been a big fan of the Sony Spider-Man universe. I hate the what's his name? I'm forgetting everyone's names here.
Andrew Garfield.
Tobey Maguire.
Oh, Tobey Maguire.
Hate the Tobey Maguire films. There is nothing to me redeeming about those films. I honestly could go the rest of my life and never think about them again and be happy. Andrew Garfield, I really enjoyed the first one. I thought they're onto something here, and then they made the second one and they cheesed it up. Then Tom Holland came along, part of the MCU, and I'm like, great, we've got this great Spider-Man, and that's where the Spider-Man universe needs to sit, in that style and that feel. I went into Venom, and the trailer gives it off a totally different vibe to the movie that I watched. Tom Hardy seemed in the trailer, his voice was actually one of the things that annoyed me. He seemed quite challenged, mentally challenged. He sounded in that trailer, and I thought, right, this is the Eddie Brock that we're getting. And refreshingly, when I started watching the movie and the symbiotes crash, and first of all, I'd like to say Riz Ahmed is amazing in this film.
Yeah.
That is one thing I really did enjoy, was his character. He was brilliant. And again, this is the weird thing.
It shows he's quite a dynamic actor, doesn't it?
Oh, he's amazing, mate, and he's a very good rapper as well. If you've not heard any of it, but this film, right, I'm going to try and wrap it up into a bundle. The acting was brilliant. The story was good. Visually, it was okay. It just felt like an Avi Arad Sony Spider-Man movie to me, and that really let me down. I think I wanted it to be at least a 15, this film. There was not enough blood for a Venom movie. There were so many heads being bitten off and eaten in this film, and there is not one drop of blood. Now, I don't need a blood to be a good film, but there was a lot of dismemberment and claws in this film, and not one drop of blood is a little bit disappointing for it, because Venom should be a lot more violent than this film was. I know what they're trying to do, and I know they've got a target audience for the kids that they're obviously making this film for, because that was my biggest problem with it, was that it felt like a Sony Spider-Man movie that would have fit perfectly into the Tobey Maguire universe or Andrew Garfield. Not to say I didn't enjoy the film, because I did, and I'm looking forward to the second one, and I will eventually watch it. But there was just a couple of moments in it that I thought they could have done so much more with this. They're on to a great start with it, and that's why I look forward to the second one, because they did a great start.
This could have been more Deadpool, couldn't it? A little bit more Deadpool in that way.
He's an anti-hero. That's what he is. Yeah. And to have him, and I like the relationship between Venom and Eddie Brock. They did that very well, where he was, first of all, he was dealing with it, and he thought he had this parasite that was, and then he thought he was going mad. And then, obviously, spoilers here for anyone that hasn't seen it now, but at the end bit where she thinks he's gone, Venom's gone, and it's still inside Eddie. And the way they were dealing with each other was like, look, you can hang around, but there's a few ground rules here. I liked all of that. I thought that was a great way of doing it. Some of the cinematography in the movie was great. There's a bit where he's standing on the bridge looking over at the Life Corporation.
Yes, yeah.
And that was just like a panel out. It was a panel out of a comic book. And I really enjoyed that. I just wish they'd gone a bit more heavy on the violence with it.
Little plot hole I noticed. Well, it was when they were in the woods, and the female character arrives, and
I know what you're going to say here.
And you're like, hang on, when did that happen?
Yeah.
Do you know the piece I mean?
Oh no, you saw that happen. That was the dog.
It was the dog.
You see that?
It was the dog.
My problem was that pretty much anyone that got overtaken by the symbiote died when it left them.
It did, yeah.
Except for her, who stood there and she was absolutely fine. Not even fallen back or taken away from this. It was just. So
there was a couple of points. We didn't see that transference with the dog. We didn't see her fall to her knees, and I just thought that perhaps, it wasn't believable. She was not a believable girlfriend as far as I was concerned.
I actually agree, because that first scene where she loses her job because of him, the way she treated him for a start was a bit like, hang on, you're not even going to talk about this. And then, I mean,
he hasn't had a fling, has he?
They didn't really kind of cover the time period either, where when you see him turn up at her house and she's got the new fella, the way she spoke to him then was like, you would not talk to anyone that you've been with in your life like that.
They were going to get married.
Yeah, and she's just pretty much like, jog on, mate. You're nothing to me.
It's been a year.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. It'd been like days, but it'd been obviously about a year. But again, there was that. Yeah, there was a little bit of that.
But again, it makes me happy and excited for the second one. Now, on the point, and this is a good segue.
Thank goodness for China, actually. Because if it wasn't for the Asian market, it would have brought the money in, and they're like, right, let's just do another one.
That Chinese box office is saving a lot of things lately. But
do you believe Aquaman? Do you believe Aquaman would have done it as well if it wasn't for the Asian market? Because that's where the cash came in from.
Probably not then, mate, if that's the case. But I think Aquaman was also a case of there was nothing else of blockbuster value at Christmas. There was no Star Wars. Had Solo have come out at Christmas, Aquaman would have done half that, 3/4 of it. It would have done what it did. But talking of plot holes, and this brings me on to the second film that I watched yesterday. And I got to say that it started good, and then I woke up at 2:00 in the morning on the sofa. It really did nothing for me, and that was The Predator. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I'm sorry. I did that face. I've got to capture that and put that on Instagram. Plot hole. So this is spoiler inbound here. So this main Predator, the one that they've got in the lab, he come to Earth to give us a weapon to stop these other predators, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why does he kill everyone that he comes into contact with and doesn't even try and negotiate, talk, or make anyone understand? He literally brutalizes every single person he comes across. The 3 army guys I get the army guys because they're going to kill him and shoot him, right? But he's in that lab. He could have, however a predator talks, he could have tried to communicate with him in some way to explain to him what was going on. But instead, he disembowels and kills everyone.
Well, I think he was strapped to a bed, possibly about to be dissected. He's probably thinking, I probably should get out of here. This is uncomfortable. He doesn't kill everyone.
He doesn't kill her. That's because it's Olivia Munn and she's the star of the movie. Yeah, so you can't kill her. And if you touch Olivia Munn, I will come after you as well.
Yeah, she's pretty untouchable.
And she's very talented as well. I just want to throw that in and not be completely misogynistic. She's very talented. I loved her in X-Men.
She's also a huge nerd. Huge
nerd. But I started this film. I really like the main guy in it. The commando army guy. I thought he was actually very believable. And there's a couple of lines that he delivered where there was one where he's in the house with the loonies or whatever they called themselves, and he says about, I'm going to go now, but if any of you do this, I will come back and I will kill you. And the way he delivered it was very believable, and it wasn't over the top. I like the little get to the chopper nod. That was in there. It was fun, but this is the trouble with these properties for me. It's not the Predator, man. It's not the Arnie Predator film, and we miss stuff like that. And
these things are always ever decreasing circles. The first one normally is going to be the pinnacle of where you are, and it goes downhill from there. It doesn't mean that because it's not as good as Predator, it's not a really good fun movie. It's just not Predator.
I will give it another go because I don't think I was in the front. Like I say, I fell asleep. I was 3/4 of the way in, and I fell asleep, and it didn't do much for me. I enjoyed some of it, but it was just kind of plodding along. It's got a good cast, man. I love Keegan-Michael Key that's in it, and Thomas Jane was good in it.
I love Tom Jane.
Yeah. There was a lot of good acts in there and doing a lot of good things. They were doing the right things, but I don't know. It just didn't really do much for me.
I think it suffered from the massive amount of reshoots it needed.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, and it's kind of a bit cobbled together, but it's still good fun. It's still better than Predator 2.
There's something in there that really annoyed me. When the agent's talking to the scientist and he's saying this has happened before, once in 87.
Yeah, it's the dates.
And then he said, and then one in 97. Right. But when she's going through the tablet, looking at the photos, it's dated 1990, which is when Predator 2 came out, and not when it's set. Right. And the other thing was the first picture she sees is the picture of him in the jungle from the first movie. Given the fact that Arnie is the only person that made it out of that jungle and did not have a camera on him, how did they get that picture?
Good point.
Well,
I'm one for continuity, and I like these things, and that really wound me up because I'm thinking, well, so someone's standing there taking a photo of Arnie having this fight with a predator and didn't think I'm going to try and help him out. They're just going to take photos.
Well, they're armed with a camera. The predator's not going to fight them.
Wow. Okay, but it was okay. It was okay. The Predator. It just wasn't. Didn't light up my world, unfortunately. So sorry.
Right. I didn't make the movie. It's all right. Give it another go. It's good.
I will
it
give
was
it
just silly fun. I don't think it was meant to take itself too seriously. I think it's just supposed to be a little bit of fun, and it's a shame everyone poo-pooed it so much. Because it's an enjoyable movie.
I think the trouble is with these things is, again, it's not a bad movie, right? It was okay. Like I said, it didn't enthrall me. It didn't do anything for me. But because it's got that name slapped on it, the same as with the Alien franchise, the same as with the Terminator franchise, they all fall on their own sword of their previous greatness. And you're right when you said that it's ever decreasing circles, and it's really hard to recapture that magic. And I think the only way they could probably relaunch a Predator movie to be something that the general public is going to take notice of is to have Arnie in there in some sort of cameo capacity. Right, and try and, because that's what they tried to do with this one, is basically when he turned around and said this has happened twice before and the frequency is it, they were basically poo-pooing AVP and everything else that has come since, and they was just going, look, 1 and 2 are the only ones that actually matter in this franchise, and that's what they would.
That was exactly what they were doing.
That's what they were doing. And then they kind of made the little jibe of, it's been increasing in frequency. But yeah, this is kind of.
Well, how I would like this franchise to end is that somehow, if they introduce Arnie back in, then he not only finds one of their ships, but the last scene is him going in one of those and heading off with the GPS coordinates to their planet to go and finish them off somehow.
Didn't they do that in Covenant?
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Prometheus,
like
one
that.
of them. Yeah.
Just, send him off to go and finish him off.
Yeah, I mean, I want him and Carl Weathers. Basically, I want an hour-and-a-half movie of him and Carl Weathers doing the manly hand grasp shake thing. Yeah, that's what I want to see.
I'd like to see a futuristic one where we're a bit more even keel and we can have a war with them like we did in Aliens.
That would be good.
See, I really enjoyed Predators.
Predator's brilliant.
Really good film, and I enjoyed that because, again, it's one of those movies doesn't have to exist in that sphere of the franchise. It's just a nice standalone. The Predators come and took a load of people that are really hardcore at killing things, took them and went, we're going to have a bit of fun with this. And I did also like the nod in this film about the whole not calling them Predator, calling them Hunters.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that as well because it is correct, factually correct that they are Hunters.
The writing's brilliant. It's Shane Black is brilliant. It's really fun and clever, and some of the CG, I didn't like the CG of the Mega Predator so much.
That was one of the things I didn't like about the film, to be honest with you, was that Mega Predator and that story beat about the human hybrid and them trying to, hybridize themselves further it didn't need it to me. It was one of those subplots of, it doesn't matter. It's a predator killing people on Earth. That's all I need in a film. Look at the first film. It's a bunch of testosterone. That film is an hour and a bit of testosterone and muscles and sweat and blood and, well, not much blood because they ain't got time to bleed. But there's so much going on in that film, but with no real story. It's just men in jungle fighting thing that wants to kill them, and I want more of that, to be honest. What's happened to 8 is machismo in movies. That's what I want. I want more 8 is machismo. I want Rambos, and I want the Commandos. I want the Predators. I don't need intricate storylines of symbiotes and hybrids and all of that nonsense. Just give me guns, alien, muscles. I'm a simple man.
Well, if you want 1980s machismo and you want lots of guns and action, then perhaps the reboot of the 1981 apocalyptic sci-fi film Escape from New York, which we've now heard is in the works with Saw co-creator Lee Whannell, and according to the Hollywood Reporter, Whannell is behind the script for the upcoming remake, and sources are also saying that there's a chance he may well wind up directing the new movie as well. John Carpenter, the director and writer behind the original movie, will be executive producer of the new film, and Andrew Rona and Alex Heineman are producing it. Now, the original Escape from New York, as we know, took place in a post-apocalyptic, then future 1997, and the President of the United States crashed into the island of Manhattan, where it's been turned into kind of like an Alcatraz-style prison, and a massive influx of crime is going on there, and the government needs to turn Snake Plissken into a good guy and send this special forces soldier into the city and try and find the president. Now, a reboot of Escape from New York. Anything good for you guys? Escape from New York? Reboot?
No. If you hadn't got Kurt Russell, I don't care.
Do you think it will have Kurt Russell?
Well, he can't be Snake Plissken anymore, can he? He's a bit more like Snake Plissken. He could play the president, I suppose.
That's fun. It's a reboot, isn't it? You said it's Escape from New York.
It's a reboot,
so it's not going to be Kurt Russell. And unfortunately, if you do get him in, it's going to be that, and that'd be cool because that's what I wanted with other things.
I do think in a very far off future that it'd be if it was much further forward, because let's face it, 1997 from when this film was made, it's not a great jump forward, is it? Not really. I find these really difficult with dates. Really difficult with dates. When you see dates on films, I tend to sort of think, oh no, why have they put a date on it?
Yeah, Demolition Man does that.
We're gonna get there pretty quickly, and the film's gonna look really dated because there's a date on it.
Blade Runner does it. I mean, does indeed. That's this year, 2019. We should be living in these sprawling tech noir metropolis with flying cars and lightsaber umbrellas.
Well, we've got
the lightsaber umbrellas, so that's cool. But
a huge fan. Yeah, exactly. Well, what a huge fan I am of Blade Runner, and that's the one thing that really lets it down for me is the date on the screen. It really is, because I kind of want it to be, to add 21 something.
Yeah.
It's much
that age-old thing. I remember going to Florida.
If flying cars and things like that, at least set it that much further forward.
Went to Florida as a kid, and we went to the Epcot Center in Disney.
Yeah.
And it was so out of date. when I went there. That it was like literally you're walking through and they're talking about the future and having flying cars and the years they were talking about was like 2010. you know. I went there in 1992. I mean, wasn't that far off, really, to be fair. And this is where it starts to go, hang on, we should be thinking more to the future here. If you haven't got the technology now to start, it's not going to happen by then. And that happens a lot with movies, you're right. And it's such a disappointing thing. I mean, Blade Runner was, not Blade Runner, Demolition Man. I think all the riots and everything happening in Los Angeles is like 1998. I think the film didn't come out not long before that, not many years before. It was like 92, wasn't it? I think Blade Runner, something like that. Not Blade Runner, Demolition Man. And you just think to yourself, bit of foresight here. I mean, by the time this comes out on video, it's going to be that year. So it can be. I mean, Blade Runner, prime example of it. It should be set at least another 60 years from now.
Well, let's hope it does, because I think that's what's needed, I think, to really make this look a very futuristic film. And if it's done very well, maybe even John Carpenter, does some music for it, because we know he's an incredible composer.
Yeah.
It would be pretty awesome. So, with that little bit of news, I think it's time that we got into a little bit of a kind of quiz, don't you think? So, this week it's my turn to do 20 questions, and as we know, this is from anything in pop culture, and it's down to one of you guys to start with the first question.
Movie, TV.
It's movies, TV, or video games. Yeah.
So, hang on. See, I know we've done a lot of movies lately, so I know that he's going to not do that, but then he knows that I know that he's not going to do that. So it's obviously The Princess Bride. Right. Shall we go for this?
Yeah, you go first. Go on.
Is it a TV show?
It's a TV show.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Okay. So that's 1 of 1. Jeremy, your question.
We can deliberate on this, right? Okay, so
yeah, let's talk amongst ourselves for a minute.
We've got to go into the inner workings of his mind, not the dark places. Okay.
Right, it's going to be something sci-fi you can cry over.
Something sci-fi with him. That's anything.
Yeah, that's the problem. Oh, he's shaking his head. It's not sci-fi.
It's not sci-fi.
Well, that wasn't the question. That wasn't the question.
We're discussing, so that's good.
So we have to ask: Is it?
Is it? I don't know.
Right, okay.
But so, as with Shaun of the Dead, you picked on something that one of us loves. So is he going to pick on something that's not sci-fi that one of us loves?
No, I've got a feeling.
Go for it.
Was this in the 80s?
No.
Oh.
Right. TV, not 80s. Right, okay, TV, not 80s. So... well, I think the next line of questioning is, we've got to find out when this came out. That's what we've got to find out, what era this is. Him doing that means it's either very late 70s or the very early 90s.
Yeah.
Because he kind of stalled, so it wasn't the case.
You had to think about it.
No, I didn't have to think about it. No, I was waiting for another question to come in there.
Or he is completely trying to screw us over by pretending, which I'm going to start doing if he's doing that.
I wouldn't do that. No, it's all straight and normal. Go on.
It's all straight. Well, it's not his DVD collection. It's
we don't tend to go back to the 70s, though, do we?
No.
So do you reckon he's trying to pull the wool over your eyes?
Is this animated?
No.
So, right, okay.
Question 4.
Not a cartoon. Right, okay.
So we've got to figure out if it's a kid's show or a grown-up show. Or...
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do with a cartoon. I thought he might try and... He's going to try and think of something that's going to put us off here, because we've done some movies, and they've all been movies so far, I think, haven't they?
And with Donkey Kong as well, didn't we?
Oh, we had Donkey Kong, yeah. So, right, okay, so this is the first TV show. Did this come out in the 90s?
Yes.
There you go. Right, so it's 90s. Okay, so it's 90s. Right.
Right, so we've got to think of TV shows from the 90s then.
90s TV show. Has this... Right, now I'm going to try and pose this in a way, this question. If you're all right with me going ahead with questions, Jeremy.
Yeah, go on.
I need your brains to think of it. Has this got an ensemble main cast? So like a team as opposed to just a main character?
Yes.
So it's a team up thing. So you know what I mean? Like a team as opposed to Knight Rider. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, okay, right.
We need to find out if it's a comedy or something. Do you reckon? An ensemble comedy?
Yes. Ask.
Is it a comedy?
Yes. To a degree, it's a comedy. Yeah.
To a degree.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got humour in it. Yeah. A lot of humour in it.
A lot of humour in it. And is the main cast 3 men and 3 women?
Are you asking or?
I have asking.
You're asking?
Yeah, I have.
I believe it has.
Yeah. Yeah. Did this run from 1994 to 2004?
I believe it possibly could have ended then.
Damn straight it's Friends.
Well done.
You got that pretty quick, really, to be fair.
Just to prove it was.
There you go. Boss man's got mad skills.
Mad skills. And didn't drive our listeners mad.
Sorry there, Jeremy, that I had to jump in, but I twigged it.
Oh, well, so did I. That's why I said when it's a comedy, when he said the ensemble cast. I thought it's only going to be Friends. It can only be that. I was going to just lead him on a bit and go, is there a fountain in the credits and stuff like that? just trying to get to 19. So
is there very good use of fat suits during this series?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does somebody have an extra nipple?
To be fair, I didn't want to punish our listeners with a long-winded.
Yeah. He thought he had a good one.
You know.
And I was just boom straight in there. How many questions was that? 7?
I think we got it. We've probably got it after about 5. To be fair.
Yeah. As soon as we had ensemble kind of comedy, because it is comedy, but it's a sitcom, isn't it? It's a situation comedy. It's very good. I like that one.
It's the greatest TV show, I think, bar none.
I'll give you that.
I mean, really, let's face it. Look at what's
one of the best comedies.
Oh yeah.
No, I think it's.
I think we've got Game of Thrones and we've got some
the longevity.
But just look at where it is today and how it's still commanding a huge amount of
biggest numbers of Netflix streams when it came out. And I mean, you've also got to look at this. There's a couple of things with it. The longevity that this ended in 2004, and we are 15 years later, and it's still relevant. And not only that, name me another series of anything that ran for 10 years or 5+ years that didn't miss a beat, that continued to stay at the same quality that it always had, because that's what Friends does. It continues to be at that level of quality. And I like things like 2.5 Men, and I like a lot of American sitcoms, but they all have a lull and the dip where they suddenly starts to go down in quality, and this never did. And Friends is like, I kind of agree with you. It's hard to put things in a bracket together like Game of Thrones and Friends, but as a series, I probably agree that it's one of the greatest things ever made for TV.
Well, in 1995, I was lucky enough to sit in one of the shows, and it was the one with Frank Jr. was the episode. I don't know if you remember that, from season 3. So I was very lucky to actually go and sit in and watch the filming of it, and it was a pretty incredible experience. And I've started watching season 1 again, and I think that's the only way to watch Friends is start at the beginning and work your way through. There's no other way of doing it. If you switch the TV on, in Britain we've got E4. I think it's on pretty regularly, isn't it? Sometimes they have like Friends weekends or Friends week, and it's all then hardly ever in sequence. But I think if you really, really want to watch something this good, you need to watch it right from the very start and really get to love these characters, as they are extremely lovable. And I think even from the onset, when you watch the first episode, you just think, wow, David Schwimmer is Ross immediately, isn't he? Very first episode, he's absolutely Ross. Joey takes time, is to become who Joey is, and Phoebe is Phoebe in the first one, and Monica is Monica. But certainly for me, Ross, played by David Schwimmer, instantly is who he is, and you can really just tell from that first episode where this is going. There's some really beautiful moments in that first episode with Rachel and Ross, where she's sitting in the window and Ross is pining still for her, and you think, this is we know how it ends.
That is the core story for the whole 10 years of it, isn't it? It's the Ross and Rachel thing. And I think you've actually now said that I've never really thought about before, but you're right. There's a lot of character progression. With all Chandler, with Joey, with Monica and Phoebe, but Ross and Rachel pretty much from the start are Ross and Rachel, and it seems to me that maybe when they wrote this, that those core character constructs and everything were put there in place from the start, and maybe they had an end game with it from that day, which they probably always knew that Ross and Rachel would end up together. We all did. You wouldn't be watching something like that and expect otherwise, would you? It's just the when rather than if. And I think I've never noticed that before, mate. But I think you're right that from the get-go, Ross is Ross. You don't really see his character change much at all over those years.
I think it's episode 2, might even be episode 3, when Rachel's sister arrives, and they've got all the posh plates out, Monica's plates, and Ross has picked one of them up, and he's going woo, trying to pretend not to drop the plate, and in fact he very nearly does at the end, and it's just instant. So soon on in the series, you get to know his humor very quickly. You just know who he is very, very early on, and I was really surprised at how quickly someone could step into a character from almost the pilot episode and just know that from that very point he's the same person throughout. And
I think with Friends we can all recognise someone in there from that in our lives, can't we?
Oh yeah,
someone like Ross and Joey and Phoebe even.
I do like to make you feel old here right now, but the young twins that played Emma, they just turned 16. Yeah, and I mean, but you put that into that's the end series of Friends, isn't it? Is it the last series or the last 2 at least? Isn't it the last series? That's how long this show's been going. That was the end of 10 years, and those babies are now 16 years old.
So what was Chandler and Monica's child called? Because they had twins, didn't they?
Don't know. Did they even ever say?
They had twins.
I don't know. I don't know this. Hang on, I'm going to ask my wife. One sec. You talk.
Will she know?
I've not seen Friends for a long time, but I had them all on VHS. I absolutely loved them.
I mean, who didn't buy them? I mean, I have still, I think somewhere in a box, I've got VHS tapes where I recorded it every week, and I paused it when the adverts came on Channel 4, and then released pause as it came back on. And it was Friday night, and I used to get home from work. I used to DJ on a Friday night, and the first thing I would do was get in, call a pizza up, get that shower done, and then I would be sitting there in my towel watching Friends before I headed off to the club. And it became a tradition in my apartment that my friends would come round, 4 friends. They'd have their dinner and come round all geared up and ready to go out clubbing, and we'd all watch it before we went out. it was an incredible time. And I think, for someone who was living in New York and hanging around in New York quite a bit in the early 90s, I used to, frequent places like Central Perk. I knew places around Greenwich Village that were just like that, and I met so many people in New York who were really, really similar to these characters. And it was very, very, very enchanting series. And you can see why it still holds up today as being the humour's there.
Such
Friendships.
a lasting influence. I did a measure the other day, and the customer was wearing a Central Perk T-shirt.
Oh, they're all in at the moment, though. They've got loads in Primark, haven't they?
They have. They've got the Friends T-shirts now, yeah.
Yeah, loads of Friends branded stuff.
Talking of which, I picked my son up yesterday, and he had his hoodie on. I said, "I'll take your hoodie off, mate. It's a bit the central heating's on." And he took he said, "Oh, I want to show you this." And he took his hoodie off, and he had a Commodore 64 T-shirt on.
Nice.
Oh, that's very cool. I said, "Excellent. Do you know what a Commodore 64 is?" He goes, "No idea." So I showed him some of the games.
It's that band with that Lionel Richie in it, isn't
it?
Yeah. I think it's that time, though, to go through Jeremy's list of his Room 101 items and stuff he'd like to put in there. So, Jeremy, Andy, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I've just got to get some retro sweets here because I'm
He's getting his retro sweeties.
I've got a little bit of a munch on the go, to be honest with you. I've got bananas and shrimps.
I've got Skittles at the moment.
Bananas and shrimps.
So before we start, let's just have a quick thank yous to those that commented on my list last week. There was a lot of commotion on the chocolate orange debacle, fidget spinners as well, and obviously the Croc shoes. And my list was purely for fun. It was a pure fun list. I didn't want to, ostracize anybody with my views on certain things. I didn't want to bring in any films or TV shows because, like
Only Fools and Horses.
Well, that one was really for you two, to be honest. It was more for Andy than anybody else. But no, it was always one of those things that I thought, well, there's been a lot of stuff on TV and film over the years. I've just thought, I just don't get that. And I thought, well, do you know what? If I put one in there, that's enough. So, Andy, are you ready for Jeremy's Room 101? Now, what we've got to do is we've got to listen to his points, and then we'll make that decision based on those points, whether they go in Room 101 or not.
Right.
So, when you're ready, Jeremy.
After my potty mouth last week, I better get ready for the time codes. Hang on.
Okay. Well, seeing as Andy's tucking into a big pile of sweets, the very first thing I want to put in Room 101 is very controversially Haribo's.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, I think that Haribo's are just a rubbish version of Pick and Mix from when we were kids. And I think all the sweets in Haribo's are subpar. And also, children get to miss out on the things that we had as kids. And I support small businesses. And people should go to the corner shop and support small businesses and buy a £1/4 of this, that, and the other, or have a 10p mix. Right. And Haribo's are rubbish compared to them.
Andy, what do you think?
Firstly, do you realise where small businesses buy their pick and mix? They buy from rather large businesses called wholesalers. That are run by companies such as Tesco. So
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, so therefore supporting the small business doesn't really make any difference there.
But it does. Of course it does.
Haribo's in Room 101. Now, we're going to go on the argument that you had last week of your daughter, that we're going to play the big guns here.
Absolutely, because I would rather my children had like tiny tots rather than fake little ones in a little tiny bag of Star Mix. And the fried eggs used to get as a kid were much better than the ones in Haribo's. I'd bring them all back, reintroduce them.
Right. I'm going to say yes to you. Even though I'd sounded like I wasn't going to say yes. I don't like Haribo either, really, mate, to be honest with you. I think there's much better sweets out there. I mean, for instance, right now, I'm eating a blackjack. You can give me a blackjack any day of the week over a bag of Haribo. I prefer I prefer a mix of sweets if I was going to have them. Like you say, as kids, pick a mix. That's even so much better. Yeah, go for it, mate.
I'm also going to.
No other sweets.
I'm also going to agree with you because I can't stand them either. I don't like them. I think they're really just like no.
Oh.
So you've got one in there, dude.
Kind of deflated me around thinking I have to fight for that one.
Said.
Now I know there's going to be a lot of people who are probably going to love Haribo's, but you know I agree with you.
You're all wrong.
Yeah, I don't like them either. And I don't think
most grown-ups love them. So
no, just rubbish
apart
advert.
from the cast of the retro.
I think there are nicer sweets out there. There are nicer sweets out there. So, okay, that's a gimme. So you got one in out of 10.
The next one is some music, which I'm going to try and be technical and make work.
I've got to do editing here now.
No, it'll be fine. As long as my...
Check it out.
No, can't stand that horrible noise, rubbish music. It is just awful. It just, there's no
What
need
exactly
for it.
are you putting in Room 101 here?
Mars,
that very song, Mars, Pump Up the Volume. That one song. I can't abide it. It's just awful. It's just everything about it. It just doesn't make any sense. It's...
Well, you've shot yourself in the foot there, dude, because for me, this was a profoundly important record. It had a huge amount of samples. A lot of them weren't even cleared. It came out at a time that was very important for hip-hop crossover with house music. And Mars's Pump Up the Volume is an awesome track. And I'm not letting that go in Room 101, I'm afraid.
You see, for a start, it's a load of sampled stuff, so it's not even that original. It's just nicked a load of other people's stuff and bunged it all in together.
But White Lines wasn't even an original track, was it? I mean, let's face it.
Rubbish as well.
And Sugar Hill Gang was also the baseline to that. Andy, what do you think?
I'm going to let him have it. Makes no odds to me, to be honest with you.
Really? Well,
it's an era of music that can be forgotten in my eyes. However, I like my old school hip hop. I just didn't like early dance like that. It doesn't really do anything for me. The only thing I do argue here is the fact that I can't actually see Jeremy at the moment because he's looking at a list. We have got his avatar, his little screen picture, and his screen picture is him during his bodybuilding days. And in my head, all I can see is him working out to that.
Never. I'm afraid I never worked out to that. Never going to be me.
But it makes no odds to me. It's not a great song in my eyes. It's not something that stands the test of time.
So you've got one in there as well, mate.
Oh, I feel I'm letting the side down here. Right,
so I've got you back, mate. I'm not.
Right, the next one, I'm not sure if it's going to translate well to the rest of the world, but blancmange, the food.
Blancmange.
Blancmange was pointless flavoured goo. It was horrible.
It's somewhere between custard and Angel Delight, isn't it?
Exactly. On my list, I put just the Angel Delight. It's much better. Blancmange is just flavourless, horrible goo. I don't see the point in it.
This is how you do a Room 101 list. All right? You do things that people don't like.
Well, we don't know if Adam likes it or not. Do you like blancmange, Adam?
I don't like blancmange. I don't like it, no. And I totally agree with you. This is for me, it's the chocolate orange thing. It's like if you had it when you was a kid and you ate too much of it, it was sickly, wasn't particularly very nice. I'm definitely in with you there, mate. I don't think we need blancmange in life, do we? It's not needed.
Oh, okay.
It can go in there with a big bag of Haribo's.
Yeah, I agree, mate, because it's one of those things where I'm I mean, you look at me, you wouldn't think that I like my desserts. You laugh.
I was thinking you were wasting away.
Yeah, I know, innit? I was just sitting here eating all these chocolate coins and some more blackjacks. But no, I like my sweets, my old-fashioned desserts and puddings and sweets. You know, I like my custard and I like Angel Delight. Blancmange can do one. It is disgusting. It's like someone got jelly and went, I'm going to make this with some cream.
Yeah.
And it's just not right, is it?
No, it's wrong on every level.
Yeah, it's like custard that's cold but in a jelly form.
It's
that
just
tastes
goo.
It's supposed to taste like strawberry, but it tastes pink.
Yeah.
And that's not right. So no, I'm gonna let you have that one as well.
Oh, right, fair enough. So
well done.
we're nipping through these, aren't we? My next one is pointless sequels. And by this, I mean...
Well, like The Predator.
No, not yet. And let me finish. I mean, that's not a sequel either, really. A pointless sequel, I mean, no returning cast at all.
Right.
Not really any relevance to the original movie. Quite often 20 years after the original. There's like the Lost Boys sequels were rubbish and pointless, and the Dusk Till Dawn pointless sequels because nobody from the original movies was in them, and movies just no pointless ones. I get.
So your examples? What are your examples? Give us some good examples of this.
The Lost Boys sequels are pointless.
Right.
Yeah. Dusk Till Dawn sequels are pointless. There's even movies like The Fly 2. That was pointless. It was awful. Have you seen? There is American Psycho 2. That's a sequel that didn't need doing because there's just nothing to do with the first one. Rubbish.
So specifically pointless sequels.
Yes.
Okay. And
so what about no? Because okay, yeah.
Yep.
Because I see what you're saying, but there are some like I really like Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows.
That's a good segue.
Right. Okay. But I really like that movie. And there's got to be some. I mean, what about? Would you class Speed 2 as a pointless sequel?
It's got Sandra Bullock back in it.
So you're talking, okay.
Just the ones that just they couldn't afford any of the original cast. You know, they tend to go straight to DVD or on the Sci-Fi Channel.
What about 2010?
What about? I've never seen it. The first one looked so pointless. I didn't watch the second one.
Yeah, I mean to be honest with you, I don't like 2001 or 2010. I'm just trying to make an argument here.
So could
and I'm having trouble.
Jaws 2.
Jaws 2's got Roy Scheider in it.
Okay, right.
But
okay,
I think by the time we get to 3 and 4, you definitely get rid of them.
Right.
Because Roy Scheider's not in them. The only thing is the rubbish shark in the next ones.
Okay, I think for me personally, because this is very specific, I'm not going to allow it to go in because I don't think you've really nailed what a specific. No, I'm not going to allow this to go in. I'm afraid.
No, but I think he has, unfortunately, because I'm just going to have a like Grease 2. I can't allow Grease 2 to exist.
Oh, that's a good example.
Exactly.
I can't allow Grease to exist. To be fair, but Grease 2 is
Grease 2 is an abomination. It's actually one of my brother's favourite films, and my brother is stupid, and that's all you need to know about him.
S. Darko.
Yeah.
Again, Donnie Darko is an amazing film. S. Darko was not necessary. In fact, I think it retroactively makes the first one not as good. If you're going to accept
So just think, you wouldn't have to have that. You wouldn't have to have Grease 2.
Dumb and Dumberer.
Exactly. You wouldn't have to have that.
Yeah, but they had the same actors, isn't it?
Not by the end of it.
No, not Dumb and Dumberer. That was the one that was a prequel that was set.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was set before the second Dumb and Dumber, whatever it was.
Okay.
That did have an insect.
The Mask 2. You can get rid of that.
Son of Mask.
You get rid of all them.
If Andy agrees with you, well, there we go.
He's not agreed yet. He's on the fence. Look.
I'm just thinking like U.S. Marshals.
Yeah.
That's a sequel, isn't it? But then again, that's.
So come on, let's give him a vote here. Is it in or is it out?
This is a hard one because I want to agree, but then at the same time, I don't want to keep agreeing with Jeremy because that was like kind of against everything we ever do and we stand for. But yeah, he's got a good one here, so I'm going to say yeah. Sorry.
Are you?
Right. Okay. Well, I'll move on to number 5, which is going to upset all the hipsters out there. People who wear scarves for no reason other than to wear a scarf. People walk down the road and they've got a T-shirt on and they're wearing a scarf. I just think that... now, when it's cold, some people do their coats up. I don't. But I can understand when it's cold, you might want to put a scarf on. But a scarf isn't something... I mean, when they go to football, carry a scarf. I get all that because you're part of a little tribe with your scarf.
Okay.
However, people, they're normally stripy scarves, and they've quite often got skinny jeans and no socks and maybe a man bun, but scarves for no reason other than for aesthetic, because they don't look nice.
Okay.
They're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Or even if your mum might have knitted you one as a kid you had to wear. But scarves, for just the sake of scarves, are rubbish.
Right. Okay. I can answer this one pretty well because for a little while I was in the mod fraternity and we wore quite a lot of these sort of silk scarves to go over the top of our Fred Perry, but it was always underneath our parka.
Exactly.
There's the gentleman's silk kind of scarf that's very thin that goes round the neck and just hangs there.
That's a cravat-y thing.
Like a cravat type thing.
Yeah.
I think that's very smart, but it's not a scarf. So I'm going to say
it's where they
scarf.
tie them around their neck.
Yeah.
They tie them around their neck
In
like
that loop.
some kind of stupid broken
so you're
neck collar
saying
they wear.
specifically to be worn outside of winter. So
yeah, in the
I
winter,
agree.
fine. Wear all scarves
not
you
needed.
want.
Yep. Okay. I'm in with you. This one.
What
definitely.
about if the weather is like,
on the turn? On the turn.
It's like we're talking March, right?
Yeah.
But you're outside and you've got a little tracksuit top or a hoodie on, right? And it's done up a little bit, but you've got a scarf on as well. Would you say that's unnecessary?
Yes.
So now I'm going to say no to you. Because as somebody who works outside constantly, even in this weather, I'm wearing my hoodie, but my neck gets cold.
But you're wearing it to keep warm, and that's acceptable. Wearing it purely for aesthetic reasons isn't. Because you'll see people wearing a T-shirt and a scarf. If you're that cold, put a jumper on.
But it might just be the neck. That's what I'm saying. In this weather, I will happily wear a hoodie because I'm busy working outside, but yet my neck gets a bit cold.
This is where I agree with Jeremy here, right? I remember going in to buy a Paul Smith scarf. It was a kind of a silky woolly mix. And I remember wearing this, over a T-shirt.
We are from different worlds, mate.
And I hung it, I had it looped around my neck. And I remember wearing it thinking, I look a bit of an idiot wearing a scarf. It's not even cold. But because I'd spent all that money on a Paul Smith scarf, I felt like I had to wear it. So I'm going to say, yep, it can go in.
I'm going to say no, unfortunately, because I like a scarf.
So, Jeremy, you got one in. So is this your number 6?
Yes.
Okay.
This is something I've been guilty of in the past, where I'm a fan of heavy metal. I like heavy metal. I like Marilyn Manson, Slipknot, Disturbed, Papa Roach, even Skid Row, Guns N' Roses, all of that kind of anything that's got lots of loud guitars and noisy, hairy men in it. I'm right into that. That's my bag, Dave. I hate it when people go, "Oh, it all sounds the same," because it really, really doesn't. It doesn't sound anything like each other.
Jeremy, totally on your side, mate.
Yeah, same here.
Right.
Because I've done in the past when I've listened to.
So what are we putting in Ring 101? People that say it all sounds the same.
Yeah. Not just about heavy metal, but any genre of music. It all sounds the same. Just shut up. If you don't like the kind of music, that's fine. Don't listen to it, but just shut up.
No, I agree, mate. There was a time in my life I had the big baggy Criminal Damage jeans and blue spiky hair and chains and everything. And I used to hang around in rock clubs and I was in a metal band. And there's a time and a place for it, I think, the older you get. Like
and the Manor Club that used to be along in Chatham. Let's go to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time and a place for it. I mean, especially now. I mean, I can't listen to it 24/7 like I used to. I used to set my alarm to bloody Rage Against the Machine and wake me up in the morning. But these days I can listen to it, but it is heavy. And I get why people could turn around to metal and say, "Oh, I can't listen to that." I get that. But to say it all sounds the same is wrong because there is a deep melody to it. Some of the structures of songs are very well written and if you sit there and listen to an album by System of a Down or something, it is phenomenal. The orchestration and the writing in those songs. So yeah, I can't agree. I agree with you, mate. They're wrong.
I think the same thing. I'm a big supporter of if this doesn't quite resonate with you, do a bit more research and check it all out. I mean, I could easily say all country and western sounds the same, or all reggae sounds the same, and you know damn well it doesn't all sound the same. So I'm totally in with you there, mate. I think those people that say it all sounds the same, put them in. Good point. I agree with you in that one.
I'm going to upset all the tree huggers now, because I'm going to try and put in. I'm going to be very specific about the timing of this.
Watch yourself.
Those pointless bees that are wasps, but only wasps at the end of summer and beginning of autumn when they're Lairy. Now, I understand that...
So we're putting in specifically Lairy wasps.
Lairy wasps, because I understand...
Wasps that are having their time of the month.
The early season, they do a really good job. They get rid of all the aphids and all that kind of stuff. But when they've got rid of the aphids, they should all just go away and leave my barbecue alone. Because you know that as soon as all the aphids are gone and there's nothing left for them to eat, they're all angry, they're all hungry, and all they want to do is sting you. And just generally be annoying, and make you run around and flail like.
Yeah, well, you miss out on that, because that is fun when you're at a theme park and you see people running around like idiots that are being attacked by invisible ninjas.
I'm that person. I'm terrified of them. I hate them.
I'm going to say because I got stung on the earlobe once by a wasp about 15, 20 years ago, and I'll tell you what, I've never forgiven that little bugger. Get rid of them. The chill ones, right? It's the Lairy ones.
The Lairy ones, yeah. The ones that are serving a purpose, I'm fine with.
I know this is one of, as they say, God's creatures, but it is a pretty pointless creature, the wasp. I don't know what purpose it really serves apart from dead wasps for other creatures.
I know.
They are annoying when you get one in your room and you're trying to get it out. You're worried it's going to sting you. They're just they're dangerous critters, and I mean they're nothing to what some of our listeners who are living in Australia have to deal with. But yeah, wasps, man. I mean, save the bees, get rid of the wasps. I'm in with you there. I think wasps are in 101. Good shout, that.
Right. Okay. Well, judging by what was said earlier, I'm not sure this one's getting in, but I'll explain my reasons. The Blair Witch Project. Because the Blair Witch Project was it was supposed to be the scariest movie ever, but it really wasn't. It wasn't very scary at all. It's just basically some people staring at a camera with snot pouring out their nose. But the thing that annoys me most about the Blair Witch is it started all of that found footage stuff, which I can't stand. So Blair Witch can do one.
Andy, on the count of three, I think we should give him his answer. Ready? 1, 2, 3. No.
Why?
Because it's a seminal film of its type.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing like it before.
Good.
There's been nothing really like it since.
Good. No, but it's got all them horrible found footage movies.
That's not Blair Witch's fault that these people make this took. That's going on to the pointless sequels that you're talking about. It's not the original film's fault. By that very argument of yours there, that means that we've got to get rid of Donnie Darko and many other films that have pointless sequels. Because
the Blair Witch Project just wasn't scary. What was scary about it?
No, but Jeremy, this is you. I'm sorry, mate, but you can't tell me it wasn't scary, given the fact that I've never heard you say anything is. Like, you sat there and you watch every single horror movie, and you always say, it wasn't scary, it didn't do anything to me. You can watch the most heartfelt movie that will have full-grown men in tears. You're like, no, it did nothing for me. I'll kick a puppy in the face, it wouldn't bother me, right? And you can't sit there and say the Blair Witch isn't scary, because I tell you what, that film is psychologically scary. It's gripping. There is no jump scares. There is no in-your-face gore, and that's why it's clever. And I remember watching that film when I was 16, I think 15 or 16, and I watched it around a friend's house. It was the middle of the day. We had the curtain shut, and we sat and watched the Blair Witch Project. We ordered a pizza, and we sat there and watched it. And I went, yeah, that was cool. None of us jump scared. None of us were terrified watching it, but I enjoyed the movie. And that night I left my friend's house and I had to walk across this big old field alone on my own. And it was dark. And the further I got into this field, the quicker I got, and the quicker I got, to the point where I was literally running from my shadow across that field out onto the main road and into the light.
And what was the cause of that? It was
the Blair Witch.
The Blair Witch.
That was nothing, and that's what the cause of it was. It was the nothing of the Blair Witch Project. It was that isolation and the acting. Because a lot of that film, there was points where they disorientated and they kept them without food and water. At night time, when they were camping in the woods, they were shaking their tents and waking them up and sleep depriving them during the filming. And that scene where she's filming herself with the camera and she's got the snot pouring out of her face, but I think Jeremy's seen Scary Movie as opposed to Blair Witch here, because
the bubble, it does have a bubble.
It does have a bubble, yes, but
it's
realistic.
It's realistic. It's real, yeah.
If it had been a Hollywood movie that wasn't found footage cam, she'd be there all dolled up with makeup on and everything, looking $1 million. She's not. She's a woman on the brink, stuck in the middle of the woods with no clue of what's going on, and it is a psychologically terrifying movie.
Yes, it is. In its genre of horror, Blair Witch, Hereditary, The Witch, those type of films that are very creepy but very slow and very psychological. This film is a standout seminal film, and you're wrong, unfortunately. Yeah. So this is not going in 101.
And I'm sorry, I agree with Adam here. You're wrong. Usually we'll say, no, I can't agree. You're actually wrong. This one, you're wrong.
So no Blair Witch going in room 101, mate.
Jeremy, I've got to say I love it. He gave me a poster last time we saw each other. I'm not rude and tell him I don't like things after I give him.
that Blair Witch Project poster was given at the cinema. And I kept it for all those years for just a moment when I might meet someone who...
The other person who likes the Blair Witch.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who like the Blair Witch, and I tell you what, I like the sequel.
Has it stood the test of time? Is it?
Yes,
absolutely.
Really?
Yes,
absolutely, yeah.
And I like the sequel, Book of Shadows, because it plays on the first one. It's an actual produced movie, and it's about a group of people that are going to the woods because of this found footage film that turned out to be fake. And I like that they played on that pop culture reference with it, that in the second movie the film does exist in that universe as a movie that is fake, and then obviously it isn't, and stuff starts happening, and we got a good couple of movies out of one franchise there that are totally different that work. And that's why I like Book of Shadows, because the first film is the found footage movie, and the second film they're riffing off of the found footage movie, and I think that is very clever. That is a very clever way of doing it.
Let's just look at it this way. What do you think was the budget for this film? And secondly,
£4.50.
It probably was. And do you know what? That's what makes this film fantastic.
I'm going to have a quick look, actually.
Is if it costs something like $30,000 to make.
I think it's the most profitable film against budget ever, isn't it?
$60,000.
There we are.
Yeah.
$60,000. So that's $30,000 to make. In terms of
and the box office, 248.6 million.
Yeah, who's laughing then? Look, this film does not date. It doesn't date because it doesn't give you anything to date it. That's why it can be watched in 20 years' time as it stands. There's nothing that really that dates this film at all. And
to
apart from the fact,
just gone down a rabbit hole here.
I'd like to see, to be honest, I'd like to see a 4K version of Blair Witch Project. Actually,
I think it'd take away a lot from that.
Do you think?
Just to Paranormal Activity actually had a budget of $11,000, which is actually quite impressive, to be honest.
Very impressive.
Yeah,
which was even worse. That was terrible.
I don't enjoy it half as much as I enjoy Blair Witch, but I can see what they were doing with Paranormal Activity, and it's one of those that does put the willies up me a little bit. To be honest with you, it's the psychology after I watch these movies rather than while I'm watching
that's
them.
what it leaves you with.
That's where these films. That's what I like about them. When I see films like The Last Exorcism or The Exorcist, for instance, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and they've got those jump scares and the moments that are in your face that you kind of laugh about later on. But with the Blair Witch, I deny anyone apart from Jeremy, who's obviously a man made of cast iron, to watch that movie and then to take a walk through the woods on their own, and not completely lose the plot.
Andy, I've got a lot of woods near me, and I'll tell you one thing is that if I lost
That's
my
where
bearings,
I know you from.
If I lost my bearing in the woods and I was stuck there overnight, that film would all come back to me. So,
yeah.
Jeremy, I'm afraid Blair Witch is
That's
not going
okay.
in room 101. So let's hear your next one.
It'll be my final one, and I've got.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna.
Hang on.
What?
There you go. So I can hear you, mate. Your Michael went funny then.
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
I'm gonna go with Reeves and Mortimer. Big Reeves and Bob Mortimer.
Okay, so Geordie humour.
I don't get them not necessarily Geordie humour.
Are they Geordies?
I don't think so. I've met the pair of them individually, and they're both nice people, but I just don't get their humour. The smell of Reeves and Mortimer, or whatever
The
it's called,
from above
shooting stars, and I didn't. Just...
all that.
No, didn't get it. Didn't watch it. Rubbish.
So I'm going to say no to you straight off the bat here. So
I'm going to say no to you as well because I really like them as a double act. I think their humour is very funny.
Right.
Once you get it, you've got it.
Right.
It's alternative. It's a little bit out there, and it's very clever. And it has nods to the great Morecambe and Wise, I think, to a degree too.
They are Morecambe and Wise, a modern version of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you. It's you've just said that the bit there that I wanted to play off was because you get it. I do not like Reeves and Mortimer's comedy. Right.
That's what I mean. Reeves and Mortimer, the comedy. I don't
get it, Jeremy. I don't get it. But I do get the Mighty Boosh, and I do get a lot of weird, far out comedy. Right. And
I do.
I think they're very much but they're very much a product of they're made for certain people again. And I like the Mighty Boosh, and I know people that have a lot in common with me that cannot stand that program. And do you know what I say to them? Hey, I get it. I understand. Because it's a certain niche or a niche. It's a certain niche of comedy, and I can't deny, this is going back to the Only Fools thing, I can't deny the impact that Reeves and Mortimer had on comedy in Britain during the 90s.
Yeah.
And
that
it's
was
not
just a
for me.
Monty Python rip-off, I thought. They're like a dumbed-down Monty Python.
I don't agree with that.
No, I don't like their comedy. It doesn't do anything for me. It didn't like Mark Lamar and Shooting Stars and all that. It wasn't my bag. But I get people that do like it, and I know people that do like it, and I understand that they get that comedy. It's not that I don't like it because I think it's stupid. I don't get it. And I think comedy is such a very specific personal preference. And, you know, we were talking about Ricky Gervais before we started recording. The guy's a multi-millionaire, built his career on comedy, and he travels the world and sold out stadium tours. And I don't find the guy funny. That's not... You know, that's...
I should have put him in. He's on my list. Look.
I would probably agree with you on that because we spoke about why we wouldn't say yes to that one.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I can't say yes to this because of the impact they have on popular culture. And it's not that it's not funny. It's that I don't get it. That's how I look at that with comedy, because they must be funny because money talks, like, and fame.
I think if our US listeners, Canadian listeners, and anybody outside the UK want to kind of find something very similar to Reeves and Mortimer, that the only thing they probably could find online is probably the Mighty Boosh, and it's highly recommended.
No, I wouldn't say Reeves and Mortimer is anything like Mighty Boosh. That's
would you not give it a go in that type with that type of genre?
Maybe, but I mean, if you're going to lump it all together, I'd say things like The League of Gentlemen and The Fast Show and things like that. They're all that era of comedy, and they all kind of have elements of each other. And The Mighty Boosh, I find, is just a little bit too avant-garde. It's a little bit too out there, and it's and that's why I understand it. You know, my wife sees me watching it and she thinks it is crap, and I can't sit there and argue that point when you've got a big green merman talking about his mangina downstairs mix-up, talking about drinking Baileys out of a shoe. You have to be a certain type of weird in your head to enjoy that, and if you don't, I get it. And it's the Reeves and Mortimer thing. They're probably a lot more toned down than that. I'd say they're a more Fast Show and that sort of ilk of comedy, but still, it's not to say it ain't funny. But
what about Mitchell and Webb? Do you like Mitchell and Webb?
I love Mitchell and Webb.
I love them absolutely. Oh Jesus, Jeremy, did we just agree? Did we just become best friends?
I've just finished listening to the audio book of Webb's his autobiography, and it is outstanding.
Yeah.
Really, really good. I recommend that thoroughly.
Do you know what? And I think you've said this, Adam, and this is actually a good point. David Mitchell is very mainstream, right? He's entered the British mainstream TV on panel shows and stuff like that. Robert Webb is very much this comedy that we're talking about here. Some people do not get him. My wife sees me watching Peep Show and she thinks it's hilarious when David Mitchell's on there, but doesn't get Robert Webb, doesn't get that comedy because he is very strange. And I think with Peep Show especially, you look over the years and you get to know their characters. Jeremy's endearing, but is an idiot.
Thank you.
And yeah, I was gonna make a joke about that, and the guy on the show is also the same. But it's the Mitchell and Webb look. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've caught it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all on Netflix now. That whole series, and their comedy is by far some of the funniest, most intelligent comedy of this current sort of like last 10 years, this decade.
I would also recommend that if you don't know who Mitchell Webb is, to go and check out a bit of Fry and Laurie, because when Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie were a double act, they were incredibly funny, and they're definitely worth checking out, aren't they? I think.
And that's for our overseas listeners and Americans. That dude in House isn't actually American.
That's right.
He's
and
he's very, very funny.
He's a very funny British man that's been around for a long, long time. That's
Bambi, the young one's episode called Bambi.
Yeah. And of course, you'd recognise him from Blackadder as well. So, Andy, what do you reckon? Did we say that was going in or not?
It's not going in, mate. In my eyes, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Okay, so Jeremy, you did really well. You got 7 out of 10 in there, which is
8 out of 10. I got 8 out of 10. Actually.
So Wasps, no, there was 3.
No, particularly Lairy Wasps. All right.
Yeah.
Wasps. There was what was the other one you got? There was Wasps.
Haribo, Pump Up the Volume, Blancmange, Pointless Sequels, Scarves. All you mean sound the same. Wasps. I've missed one out. Oh no, the Blair Witch Project and Rivers of Mortimer I didn't get in, so I've still got one to go then, obviously.
Yeah, well, there's Blair. Yeah, there's Blair
I've missed
Witch.
one out. Oh well, I'm going to do my other one then. Hashtag celebrity people who aren't celebrities.
Right. No, we spoke about this earlier.
I know, but it's on my list. So.
Who do you think was the first pointless celebrity? I mean, who do you think would have been the first one that is from memory? Who comes to mind, Jeremy? That particularly is this.
I struggle with them because I really don't know. I'm not going to be one of these people listening. I don't know who the Kardashians are. I've heard of the Kardashians. I think it's probably them. But I wouldn't really know anything they've done other than a certain home movie, I believe. Was how one of them become famous.
So are you So you're specifically saying celebrities who are famous for just being famous?
The Kardashian father, Jeremy.
They're famous for just being famous.
The Kardashian father was the lawyer to O.J. Simpson.
Oh well, they come from a sterling tradition. Then
that's where they yes, he was the lawyer for O.J. Simpson during the trial.
What I mean is that I'll pick on I'm a Celebrity. You watch I'm a Celebrity, and there'll be half a dozen old people and half a dozen young people, and the old people were from TV shows or sports people who actually had some kind of discernible talent at some point, and they were on telly.
And then there's somebody who's from a reality TV show.
Yeah, I agree with you here, because my problem with these things is I've actually watched, I think it was Celebrity Big Brother a few years ago. I didn't watch it, but I actually had somebody in Celebrity Big Brother that was originally a Big Brother contestant.
Yeah.
So they went onto a reality TV show as a civilian, let's call them. They came out of that said TV show, then built a career on the fact that they went into a TV show once, and then became a celebrity on a celebrity version of that show.
Yes.
What's that about?
There's some kind of meta comedy going on there.
We were talking about this earlier, about this thing they now call influencers. It's about somebody who's got 2 million Instagram followers, wears a handbag, and then everyone wears it. And that's nonsense. That is not built on a talent or a skill.
No. That's just turning up somewhere.
No skill,
your celebrity basically comes down to whether you're pretty, whether you're good looking, whether you're desirable. And
why are we not celebrities?
I know.
I don't get it. I
Look
don't
at
get
us.
it. Yeah.
No.
So someone who's been on a
actually.
TV talent show that becomes a celebrity that wasn't particularly good at it, or we just saying just
not even people who have been,
or people who have become a celebrity because they've been on a reality TV show.
Yeah.
And
or they put Instagram.
Yeah. What's his name? That Rylan, right?
Oh yeah.
Clark.
Yeah.
What's his name? You know, he was on Big Brother, and now
he was on.
Anyway,
I'm not including him because Rylan was on the X Factor.
Oh yes.
Then he won Celebrity Big Brother. But he's built
a career out of it.
He can present shows and stuff like that. I mean, people who just genuinely have got about 7 brain cells, but they wear fake tan and probably scarves. And
I'm with you. Those sort of people can go in.
They turn up at the opening of an envelope and they go, "Oh, let's take a picture of that person
with a particularly Lairy Wasp on their shoulder."
Yeah, exactly.
And usually the journalist has to go back and find out actually who is this person took a photograph of, what they're famous for. Yeah,
and they'll be in Take a Break magazine somewhere on the pages in the back, having been to a nightclub somewhere. And
can I say no to this because this was going to be one of mine was influencers.
So. There's one of the. You can say no. Go on then.
No, I'm going to say yes to it, mate. You know our thoughts on this.
Because it is on my list. So
I agree. I think the reason why we are nerds to a degree is because we look upon these people that we see in films and TV shows and that are involved in some way because of their talent in the world of fandom and everything else. And those that have become very popular and become celebrities and they're actually famous for really nothing
and
don't deserve to be.
I'm not including YouTubers because YouTubers obviously have some kind of talent.
Well, indeed,
that people enjoy.
The thing is with YouTube generation is that you've got your own TV show to do whatever the hell you want, which we can't deny anyone because it's essentially what we do without video.
Yeah.
Well, you've started and made it a little career of your own, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
But somebody who's gone into a reality TV show that was one of 60,000 entrants that managed to get in, and then
I mean, a lot of them gain infamy just because they're gonna climb under the covers with someone and wiggle about a bit and pretend to do rudies.
Is that all it takes?
Yeah, that's
right.
That's
get
pretty
round
much
here,
what
Jeremy.
it takes.
Hurry up.
So you've got 8 out of 10 in then. Well done.
Cats. Yeah,
well done.
There we go. I know I should have gone for potpourri. That was enough one I was going to pick.
Oh no, I like that.
No, I can't stand that.
Plus, once it's lost its smell, put some curry powder on it. You've got biryani mix. So, what's it called? That, you know the one I mean. Yeah,
Bombay mix.
Good. Bombay mix. So there you go. You're sorted. Recycling that, mate.
Well done, Jeremy. That was a pretty good list. I think there's some good stuff on there, and certainly a couple there that I think a lot of people agree with. Blair Witch, definitely not. But I think you got some goodies in there. So we'll close the door of Room 101 for this week. Andy, you've got to start getting your list together for next week's show. I'll be fascinated to see what you're going to chuck in there. Really would. I'm really looking forward to that.
Baby shark, do baby shark. No, I just like that song. Sorry, there's nothing to do with it.
Oh, nothing to do with it. Okay.
Have you heard Baby Darth? That's a good one.
Is there a Baby Darth one?
There is a Baby Darth, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, what's he going to watch? Look, we can see his TV.
He's putting his DVDs in ready.
See, that was Debbie Does Dallas.
Yeah.
See that?
Box of Kleenex next to it. We saw that.
Well, I tell you what,
have you seen that? They're not allowed to call them man size anymore. They're called extra large.
Are they?
Yes.
Well, I was currently checking out what has recently been added to the Netflix streaming service, and if there's anything on there that perhaps you guys might be interested in checking out in the next week. There's The Descent Part 2.
The first one's brilliant.
The first one is brilliant, Jeremy. Yeah.
The second one's not
He's out there.
He's out there.
He's out there. There's another one.
I'm gonna have a look as well.
Jeremy, have you ever seen a film called Creep?
I haven't.
Set on the London Underground, because that film
I've
genuinely
heard of
scared
it.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I at that time that I watched that, I used to frequent the London trains quite a bit on the Underground and that, and I don't know. I think something about it being centered somewhere that you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely does freak you out a bit, and it starts off in Charing Cross, and I remember not being there not long after watching it, and it was late at night, and there was nobody else on the platform, and the mine started going. I'm thinking, if the lights go out now, I'm throwing myself on the tracks.
Like American Werewolf does that, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. When you walk, they're just walking along singing, aren't they? And yeah, it's very much that.
They've got the underground in that as well, haven't they?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But I don't know. There's something about Creep. It is. I mean, the title suggests it says it all.
Yeah.
Watch it. Do yourself a favour. Sorry, Adam. Sorry.
What do you guys think of The Conjuring?
Rubbish.
I can't ever get over that film, mate. When I worked at the cinema, I was on box office one day helping out, and the amount of different ways people can pronounce that word does my head in. The worst one being The Conjuring. Yeah.
The Conjuring what?
Conjuring. They wanted 2 tickets to do The Conjuring.
The Conjuring.
Yes, but then again, working behind the concessions counter, when people ask for jalapenos on their nachos, you think you're taking a mick. You're that stupid. Jalapenos.
Yeah, Descent Part 2. Look.
What else we got, Adam?
We also have we've got Velvet Buzzsaw with Jake Gyllenhaal and Rennie Russo and Toni Collette and John Malkovich. We've got Night Flyers, which is a Netflix original as well, and that looks particularly good. This series, Night Flyers crew struggles to handle the ship's newest passenger, a powerful telepath who could only be their only hope for a successful mission. So a little bit of sci-fi going on. And then we've got another new series. I think it's a series. I'm just going to check this out. Yeah, it's a series. It's called Russian Doll. And this is
it's got the
on
girl
the
from
night of
American Pie and
the girl from American Pie. Yeah.
Orange is the New Black in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is a new series. I think there's 8 episodes in this series, and I'm definitely going to check that out because it looks rather good.
Stacey's in the front room watching it now.
Is she? Well, perhaps we can get Stacey's review of this.
Oh no, don't do that. She'll want to come on more often. She keeps begging me to do a Buffy episode.
I'll have to watch some Buffy first.
Have you never seen Buffy, Jeremy?
I've caught episodes here and there, but I haven't invested and
do me a lemon, mate.
I've watched it. It's not like I don't like Buffy.
The other movie, I think, Jeremy, if you haven't seen this, I think you two might want to check this one out. It's called The Cured. It's a zombie apocalypse movie.
About some ham.
Thwarted by a cure for the virus, but now the antidote is found. Who will fix a broken society? And it stars the fantastic Ellen Page.
Oh no, I saw the trailer for this. Looks really good.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
So this is on Netflix, and probably worth.
I love Ellen Page. She's amazing.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Have either of you seen The Night Eats the World?
No, that's the French one, isn't it? That looks good.
But I've tried.
Yeah, this is about another zombie attack. A musician wallows in the boredom and isolation of possibly being the only one living among the undead. That looks.
Did you say French? Pretty
good. I don't know if that's subtitled, to be honest. I'm not particularly sure. Another movie from 2007, which has cropped up, is The Murder Party. Its tagline is "Murder Party, everybody dies." So there we go. But the front cover, it looks extraordinarily strange. It does look a little bit like What We Do in the Shadows, judging by the cover of this film.
I should have put that in room 101.
But this looks a little bit on your type of kind of film, Jeremy. And the director is Jeremy Saulnier, so maybe worth checking this out. This is kind of like a dark comedy, cult horror movie, and is definitely, I've been told, is worth a look. So anything else you guys want to cover of this week's show before we round it up and say goodbye?
The new Death Wish is on there, the remake of Death Wish.
With
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, thank you, yeah. Any good?
It's not too bad. There's no
Again, generic
no
action film. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Generic action film that could be called something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Really, kind of anything other, because I think Charles Bronson is the man from Death Wish. So
I didn't really like Death Wish.
See, on Netflix you've got Riddick, but none of the other ones.
Yeah,
that's a shame. That. Yeah, that's a shame.
But isn't Pitch Black is on Amazon Prime at the moment? I know that. Yeah. I really like the second one.
Pardon?
I really like the Chronicles of Riddick.
I think it's good. I think it's good.
The games are amazing too.
I would like to watch that with the children or with Freddie, definitely.
You should play Escape from Butcher Bay. It's a really good game.
I used to have that.
It's a really good game.
I don't know what platform I would have had that on.
Xbox, I think it was on.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm sure that was.
A Million Ways to Die in the West. That's good. That's on Netflix.
I recommend a film called Hurricane, which is basically after Hitler's Nazis threatened to take command of British skies, a squadron of Polish pilots arrive to aid the Royal Air Force against a mutual enemy. Directed by David Blair. It's got a really good cast. It's got 5 stars on Netflix, and it's a really good Second World War film. Definitely worth checking out. Anything else, guys? You want to wrap before we round it up for this week?
No.
Do you want to talk about this gaming event that happened last night for Fortnite? This in-game concert that
you're the one who knows about it. You should tell everyone.
Well, I was out at a party, but my son and my beautiful girlfriend's children were playing Fortnite last night, and where the DJ musician Marshmello did a in-game concert, and this is the first time this has ever been done, and obviously probably won't be the last. But it's interesting to see, how this is starting to really integrate together, and I think for those that sort of have said Fortnite's on its way out, clearly don't know what they're talking about, because it's just sort of gaining even more and more momentum. But what a lot of players are finding very tricky is that there is a lot of people that are using Twitch, and they're playing now all day, all night, and it's getting very, very difficult for a lot of newbies to do well in the game.
There you go. I can see you talking about last night. Then Fortnite had 10 million concurrent players in the Marshmello concert event. Not doing that bad, is it?
It's doing incredibly well. The Anthem demo dropped this week, and I did get to play the Anthem demo. It looks rather good. Titanfall is having a little bit of a DLC with a battle royale going into the game, which I'm looking forward to checking that out. But yeah, Anthem, brilliant demo, and definitely worth checking that out while it's still around. Gaming wise, I'm still yet to get Red Dead Redemption. I'm waiting for that price to drop before I go in there, but by the time,
waiting for a few more years, mate.
Yeah, I think it's holding its price pretty well. Black Ops 4 is still and one of those games that's still on my list that I must pick up and get cracking on that, but I'm still playing Black Ops 3 and thoroughly enjoying it. Andy, you been playing any games at all?
I am on the verge of thinking about selling my PlayStation, to be honest with you.
Your PS4?
I've been mulling it over. I just don't get enough time to play games. I've bought a few recently, and I tell you what, I get about an hour and a half into them, and I end up not continuing them and completing them. There's nothing on my radar that's telling me I need to get it. I mean, if the new Elder Scrolls was announced and it was soon, I'd probably be hanging around. But everything that seems to come out lately just disappoints me. For Fallout 76, Fallout is probably my favourite games franchise there is, and 76 was just a big pile of doo-doo. And there is nothing on my radar that says, wow, I'm excited. And anything that I've played, I was really looking forward to Horizon Zero Dawn, and I got it in the store, and I've played it for a couple of hours, and I just can't be bothered to continue playing it. And it just seems to be my gaming habits are changing. Like, I've played a lot of Black Ops 3, but nothing. I mean, I had the trial of Black Ops 4, and I played it for the weekend, and I'm not being drawn back to it. There's nothing saying to me, Andy, go back, turn on your PlayStation, and go play a game. And it's a shame because I just kind of want to play retro games now. There's nothing new that's exciting me.
Well, I might have to talk to you about that when we meet up in a couple of weeks' time, because I could do with a new Blu-ray player, and of course that has one built in. So
don't buy mine, mate. It's on its way out. That's why I'm selling it. I was just trying to. No, it's absolutely fine. But yeah, I just don't know. To be honest with you, it's not
talking of retro gaming. Can I just say that I did mention earlier on that my son was wearing a Commodore 64 T-shirt, and I have looked a couple of times at the 64 Mini. And the more I look at it, the more I'm thinking I wouldn't mind that myself. Actually, it's got some cracking inbuilt games.
What games are on it?
There's a lot of games on it. I couldn't read them all off, but there's a lot of great games on there. And it's a tiny little machine. I mean, when you put the original 64 next to it, it's incredibly small. But the one thing that's very deceiving is the keyboard is non-functional. So
sit there and write basic programs on it.
Exactly. So it has a keyboard, but it's not functional. It's just there for the looks of it. I'm also really tempted in that Atari handheld. I've looked at that a few times, but I must say I'm not particularly keen that the fact that where it has games on there that clearly need a paddle, there is no paddle built in, or even a dial for those type of games. Games like Asteroids that used a ball, that would be where that would work really well. Tempest is another game where you would need some kind of track ball or a paddle, and it doesn't have that in. But it's definitely a wicked looking handheld. So yeah, I'm with you on that, mate. I think, I'm an Xbox fan, and I do like the way games look on that, but I've always, whenever I'm in game, I tend to have a look at what's on the PS and available, and I think, I'd really like that Spider-Man game. There's a lot of games that are on the PlayStation that aren't on the Xbox.
Really samey. You literally, after swinging around for an hour and think, yeah, that was fun, you start digging into the missions. It's just grinding, mate. It really is grinding, yeah. And I'm one of these. My game preference is big, sprawling, open world RPGs, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, even Dragon Age, things like that. And even then, the idea now is daunting. I mean, Skyrim, I invested in it. Skyrim was 200 hours. I'll tell you what, Fallout 3, I think it was over 400 hours I invested into that game, including the DLCs for it. And I ain't got that sort of time now. I can't.
I mean, I'd love to play Zelda. I really would. I'd love to play Zelda, and of course
that's why I got my Switch.
Yeah,
that's why I got my Switch. I still haven't bought it because there's something holding me back. And I'll tell you what, when I finally do get the new Elder Scrolls game come out, if I do get it, everyone will know, because there won't be a podcast for a few weeks, because I will be full into that, and that's the problem. I've got too many outlets of things that I need to push my time onto, and gaming ain't one of them at the moment. And that's why I like retro gaming, because I boot up my Wii at the moment. I can play for half an hour of an old fun retro game, not worry about my progress, turn it off, and then come back to it another day.
Very good point. So let's just the point of it too, isn't it, Jeremy?
Sorry?
I was going to say the point of retro gaming is those games are already timeless classics.
Yeah, I mean, my favourite time of computer gaming was on a Commodore 64. I think they were the best games I've ever played. They're clunky and they look awful compared to today's things, but they were just so much fun. And that you're in there, you play for an hour and you've done it.
They're not just fun; they're difficult. I mean,
yeah.
Jake was playing on his Switch earlier on today. He was playing Donkey Kong. It took him a few goes to just clear the first level. They're not easy.
I think one of my favourite games of all time is Paradroid. I played it thousands of times. I never once finished it. Never finished it.
To be fair, a lot of old games, they didn't have an end. So, you probably thought you were getting close. You never were.
No, you could complete Paradroid. There's one ship and you had to clear off all these different robots. I never managed it. Never managed it.
Mm. See, before all of that, my true roots of gaming and where my heart lies is point and click adventures, and I could quite happily sit there and play them through time and time again.
Yeah.
Nothing does it for me now, mate.
So, on that note, on that bombshell, as they say on Top Gear, I think that rounds things off very nicely for this week. All there is to say is that you've been listening to the Retro Inc. podcast, a member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network.
Yes,
and check out more from the Commonwealth at starwarscommonwealth.com. You can go and check out our website, retroincpodcast.co.uk. You can join us on Twitter and Instagram and the Retro Inc. Facebook page and our Retro Inc. page. And we have a YouTube channel where we also post these podcasts. And obviously, do send us some comments and give us a review on iTunes. That would be really fantastic if you can do that. It really helps us climb the levels a little bit and get found. You can also find us and many other podcasts at the StarWarsCommonwealth.com, such podcasts as Talk Star Wars, Tumbling Saber, The Nerd Room, Generation X-Wing, Rogue Squadron, San Diego Sabres Radio Podcast, Tatooine Sons, and Sandcrawler Podcast, and of course Retro Inc. with myself, Adam, and my two wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous friends, Jeremy and Andy.
No.
Jeremy, where can people find you on social media?
You'll find me lurking on the Facebook page quite often, putting stupid pictures on and talking about chocolate oranges and insulting you usually. Yeah. And I'm there on Twitter as well. Jeremy at the Retro Inc. Podcast.
Andy.
That's who I am.
Hello.
If anyone wants to message you or send us some comments and questions to the show.
Well, the first place you can find me is the men's service station toilets on the A2 Rotherham interchange. Otherwise, aside from that, you could probably find me anywhere you've just said, really. Instagram is probably the best place to get me.
And if they want to email the show, what's the email address to send to?
Contact. That's the one. Contact at retroincpodcast.co.uk. And it does work now because I tested it.
Yeah, Andy's been very busy also updating our little website, and more's going to be happening to not just the website but also the podcast in the future, and we have some plans that we will tell our listeners about very, very soon indeed.
Yep.
Thanks very much, guys, for a great show. Really enjoyed your 101 this week, Jeremy.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to yours, Andy, next week.
Cheers, mate. Cheers. I'm looking forward to doing it. And I wish I hadn't gone last, to be honest with you, because you two are going to make this really difficult for me. So, number one, Star Wars.
Yeah, chat that
all of it.
Anyway,
you said I couldn't have the prequel, so I'm having all of it.
I tell you what, if it was in that list, mate, you wouldn't be able to sleep at night for the amount of.
No, I'm doing it for the greater good, because if I get rid of all of Star Wars, there's no more of this nonsense.
Thanks so much, guys. Thank you for listening. This has been the Retro Inc. Podcast.
Bye.
Be seeing you.
Damn it, Jeremy.